founder of I'm co-founder of Speak with Jack. We are an online English language learning platform, and we sell licenses to schools around the world. I built this together with my co-founder, also called Jonathan. We started about 3.5 years ago with an idea to create a program that would help children in a specific way, and with learning English through a narrative. And that slowly developed into a character called Jack, who essentially teaches children how to speak English. And on this platform, we have a variety of interactive features that they can use in order to do that. Over the last few months, we've started selling licenses to schools. We have schools in Thailand, Abu Dhabi, Egypt, and Brazil so far that have bought licenses. That's kind of where we're at. And at the moment, it's still 2 of us kind of working on it.
Thank you, Jonathan. And can I introduce Josh Barron? Please tell us who you are, Josh, and what your business is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Barron. I am the co-founder of Porto and Bello, which is an accessible clothing brand for medical patients. The idea and business was born out of my own and my wife's own sort of personal trauma when my wife was diagnosed with cancer back in March 2020. During my wife's treatment, she was having ports and wires on her, but that meant she had to lift her jumper up, be cold, exposed, and uncomfortable. And we tried to find a solution for her, and we just couldn't find anything. So we knew there was an issue that needed to be resolved, and we knew that, you know, unfortunately, it's a market that is very big and growing. So for the past year, we have manufactured and designed and started selling our product about 6 months ago, and that's where we are now.
Thank you. And please, everyone, put questions in the chat. But I just wanted to ask, you both told us the idea behind your business and the insight that and the problem that you were trying to overcome. Have your initial ideas for the product or your service, have they changed or adapted since the launch of your business? I'm going to put that to Jonathan first.
I would say that the idea itself hasn't changed too much, but with the way that we went about it, you know, we started with a seed of an idea, and then as we were carrying on going, it grew, and then as we were putting it to the market, we had to obviously adapt to what was required in the market. So a few changes that we had to make to the platform, and to ensure that it was suitable for the students that we were trying to target. And we did a couple of trials before we started selling, so that gave us some really good insights.
Thank you. Josh, what about your clothing products?
Our initial idea hasn't changed as such. We still have clothes that are fashionable, comfortable, and discreet. However, we started off with a range of crew neck sweatshirts and hoodies that are meant to keep the patient warm as they sit in sort of cold hospitals and receive cold treatment through their IV. But through sort of market research and feedback from our customers, we're looking to expand our range into a lighter clothing, and also in the future clothing for children who are unfortunately going through illnesses.
Thank you. And it's so important, isn't it, to always have market research and speak to your consumers and see what it is they actually need, so you know if you need to adapt something. Go ahead, Sarah.
Josh, so I'm Sarah. I'm new to Work Avenue. I'm a colleague of Kim's. I'm just interested in knowing, did you come from a clothing background, either you or your wife, when you started this?
No, not at all. My background is in property, and my wife's background was in marketing. This was born out of, you know, pure frustration and our own struggles. And I researched, YouTubed, spoke, connected to as many people as possible to learn about different fabrics, different manufacturers, different suppliers, everything there is sort of as I could to figure out how we could do this, because we knew we wanted to do it. So there's something, when we have a passion behind it and a real cause, then I think that's a real driver that gets you motivated to want to produce something.
Because I come from a clothing background. It's really hard, Josh.
It was a struggle to start. A bigger struggle was finding a manufacturer that would take us on with our, we're a small business, so I'm not going to order 5,000 units. So it was a struggle, but it was all about connecting. It was all about speaking to someone and speaking to another person, until you get to the way you want to be. We never gave up, and we found a great manufacturer, and for our growth, we found another manufacturer because we had issues with the supply, freight issues coming, because our initial supply was from India. So we're now getting our next shipment manufactured in Turkey, where it's sort of driven across the border rather than flown or shipped in.
So when you think back about your journey, what would you identify as being the biggest challenge? I mean, for me, setting up a clothing business when you don't come from a clothing background is, amazing. But when you look back on what you've learned, what has been the biggest challenge?
Besides sort of the logistics and manufacturing, our own ongoing challenge is dealing with our trauma of what we go through every day, and our business, because our business is such an emotional product where it's come from real struggle. It's trying to separate that part with the business, and also dealing with patients that are going through struggles every day and asking us personal questions to how the product can help them. It's it's an emotional challenge. It's not a simple sort of business only mindset. So separating both is our real challenge.
Jonathan, can we put that same question to you? What has been your biggest challenge since starting your business?
So I think sales is the hardest. That's for sure. I think that the product development side is relatively easy in a sense. You have an idea, you put it together, and trialing it was relatively easy as well. Finding people that want to buy it, to trial it, but actually finding the customers is a challenge. And we started out by thinking that we were going to target B2C, like customers, so individuals, but then we realized that actually that would cost a lot per customer, and there's a lot more. So the costs would be too high, and so we sort of changed to more B2B, and that meant that we needed to contact schools and find a way to do that. And we've tried, a huge number of different ways to do that, mainly through LinkedIn, by connecting with head teachers and school leaders, each sort of the sales cycle, the process of actually getting a sale is long and requires a tremendous amount of patience. And also, there's a market out there. There are competitors out there, and it's also about finding the right time to target them. Like when are they? When is the budget ready? So I think is certainly the biggest challenge. And in order to make sales, you have to have people who are going to refer you, and that takes time. So the students that are using it currently, we're generally getting good feedback, but whoever's going to want to buy it is going to want to see more of that feedback. So it really does take a long time to make a sale and to find ways to find your target audience and to sell to them ultimately.
So for all our clients, everyone here on the call who'd be thinking about starting a business, if somebody has an idea that they believe is innovative, what do you think the first steps that should be that they should take to move it from an idea to an actual business? Jonathan, I'll ask you that first.
I think it really it's a very big question. Everyone's circumstances are different, and everyone has different levels of resources. So I suppose you have to know to what extent, what risk you're going to want to take when doing that, and what resources you have, who you know, are you going to work on your own? You're going to work with a partner. Choosing the right business partner is absolutely crucial. And you know, ultimately, you've got to live at the same time. So you've got to know that you can kind of do both while setting up and living at the same time, and finding the right balance. But ultimately, yeah, it's about really understanding the market in which you're going into. You know, what's the need that's there? What problem are you actually solving? Is there a problem to be solved? And is what you're doing actually solving that problem? And then investing the time, the energy, the resources into doing that. But as I said, it really, I mean, my experience was that it started with a seed of an idea, and then it kind of grew as we were going. It emerged into something sort of different to the way we saw it. So that's, I suppose, part of the process as well.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, Kim. Can I ask you, how important is it then, do you think, to actually conduct market research? Because it feels like you think you're solving a need, which is Josh's case. He is solving a need, absolutely. You think you've come up with something which is innovative and is brand new in the marketplace. Neither of those things mean that this is going to be a business. Kim and I see lots and lots of lovely, lovely business people here at Work Avenue, where it never progresses beyond the business idea. How important is the market research to moving on from that?
It's definitely important, and you know, we did some market research. We probably could have done more. I think the market is teaching us that we need to adapt to some extent. But I think, you know, market research is one part of it. Obviously, all the other elements also need to be there in order to build it. And I suppose what Josh was saying as well, you need to have, if you've got a drive, if you've got a passion to do something, then even if it doesn't work out in the first iteration or even the second or third, you know, just sort of keep going. So one of the things that I'm now doing to kind of pivot, but also linked to what I'm doing, is I'm setting up a global head teachers network. I just thought, I've been doing a lot of networking on LinkedIn over the last 3 years. And a lot of those are within my industry. And so I thought, you know, instead of just focusing on Speak with Jack, I'll create a marketplace for it and for other things as well. So I think there are, you know, it's not just about focusing necessarily on the one idea that you had, but also maybe thinking around other things that could link into sort of other areas within the business, and that can then feed back into what you're doing. So part of it is really just not giving up either. It really is just constantly looking for the insight, looking for the problem that needs to be solved, and going for it. And if it's not working this way, okay, so then you're going to try and do it another way, and you're going to try and do it another way.
Josh, can I put that question to you? What recommendations would you give to anyone who thinks they've got an innovative business idea? How do they move it from an idea to an actual business? I
think Jonathan and Sarah sort of summed it up, really. It's research, research, research. It's, does your idea exist? If it doesn't exist, why hasn't it existed before? Did someone try to do it and it's not working? Is there sort of a dormant Facebook page or a dormant URL that someone tried to do it and hasn't been able to? And if so, why? You know, is there a market for your demand? And it's not just, is there a market in your bubble of your life, your family and friends? Is it a wider market? Because your family, friends and local community aren't going to support your business all the way through. So you need to really do research. Do you have the money to put into it? And if you don't have the money, do you think someone will invest into it? It's a lot of time and research that you need to go into, rather than just thinking you have a great idea and plowing all your resources into it.
So you've actually led me very, very nicely into another question I have for you. And Josh, I'm going to ask you this first. Your business, both of your business ideas are not cheap to launch. And to start, how much money did you need to get to the first stage of your business, and where did you get this money from? Josh, I'm going to ask you this first.
It's all about starting small for us. You know, it's starting small and growing. You know, our initial, when you think of an idea and you think how amazing an idea is, you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it and it's going to sell out on the first day. I'm going to have people queuing around the corner to buy my product. But you know, that might happen to a handful of people you might see on social media or in the news, but that's not the reality of starting and growing a business. So when creating our business plan, our plan was always start small and reinvest the profits back into the business. We have tried to be as sort of shrewd with our investment as possible. It's, you know, we haven't gone to an agency and spent £5,000-10,000 on our website and social media marketing. It's, you know, we initially tried to create our website ourselves. Could we do it? Could we make it great? It wasn't great, but we found someone through networking to create, you know, a sort of a reasonable priced website with social media marketing. Again, you know, you can spend thousands and thousands of pounds and get nowhere. So we initially started with completely organic marketing via influencers, user generated content. And when that started to slow down, then we'd taken the profits that we've had so far and starting to invest that now into an agency that can help us target our consumers effectively, rather than me trying to go on Meta and put £100 a day, £200 a day on social advertising, when that's not my strength. It's really about sticking to your strengths and then learning as you go on. For sure, when we start to grow and our marketing starts to pick up in terms of paid marketing, I want to learn how to do that as well myself, because it's something that is learnable. You know, everything you can learn. It's just about where you put your resources at that moment, because you can't spread yourself too thin.
So you didn't go elsewhere for investment. This was your own money you put into it?
This is our own money we put into it. But again, like I said, we started small, did a small production run. Even though it was more expensive per item, it's, you know, okay, the profit per item is a bit less at the beginning, but our costs are less at the beginning. We're not sticking money into advertising just yet. So we're taking the profit and then we're going to move that into our growth.
Thank you. And Jonathan, what about you? Did you go anywhere for investment when you started out in the business?
No, this was primarily funded by both of us. And, you know, there were some significant costs to sort of create the animation, and we customized an open source platform called Moodle, and that's, you know, there's cost to that, there's cost to hosting. I suppose we took the view that in order to have something that anyone's going to want to buy, it needs to be, you know, reasonably significant investment put in. Would we put as much in now at the beginning? I don't know. As you know, looking back now, could we have done it cheaper? Probably we could have done. But at the same time, there has to have a certain level of quality to it in order for it to be bought. And, you know, at the moment it's being used in some very high level private international schools. I suppose they wouldn't have used it if it hadn't been of a certain quality. So in a way it demanded that, and we knew that we were able to do that. But, you know, not everybody can do that, and not every business, you know, does want to start that way and take that kind of a risk. And I suppose it's an ongoing thing for us to sort of assess to what extent, you know, that risk is worth it or has been worth it. You know, I have to wait and see to be able to answer to what extent. But I suppose, you know, there's always a risk involved, you know. Yeah, there's a risk of time, there's a risk of money. Yeah.
Can I ask a different question? Feel free, anybody else, to ask questions. Kim and I have got loads that we want to ask. Mindset is really, really important when you are running a business. So I want to ask the question really is, how do you manage when things go wrong? Josh, as I asked this, I'm actually quite, in a way, a little bit uncomfortable, because you have a personal relationship, and then you have your wife and the sort of illness side, and then you have the business together. So when you put all of that together, how do you manage?
It's a work in progress. You know, it's obviously, you know, like you said, it's my co-founder, my business partner is my wife, but she's also my wife, the mother of my children, and you know that it's a work in progress. It's constant work. It's trying to find that balance between work and life, especially when we're trying to keep costs down. So, we're working at home. So when the kids come home from school, that's almost our day over. So it's really finding a balance and trying to keep a positive mindset. I think what I found is the way you start your day is how your day is going to continue. If you start positively, if you get out, get some fresh air, do exercise, the way you tackle your challenges throughout the day is sort of how you start, really, is what I found.
Okay, brilliant. Jonathan, so I'm interested in knowing with you, before I ask you the mindset question, the gentleman who I think you said is another Jonathan.
Yeah.
Were you doing a business together first? Did you come together to do this? Did you pick each other because you had complementary skills? How does that work? And then how does the mindset work between the two of you?
So we've been friends for about 15 years. And during that time, we've done sort of other projects together. We co-wrote a book, and just generally, we've always been generally involved in education and excited about that. And then one day he said, "Oh, hold on, I've got this idea. What about this?" My background is as a teacher, and I'm also a linguist, so it made sense in a sense for me to do this. I'd learned a few languages, and so to create a program that could help other people learn languages was something that I felt I could do. And so, and he brought sort of more of a business sort of mindedness to it. So yeah, we both knew we were going to work hard at it, and so that's how it kind of happened. And then we just built it.
So how do you manage the mindset aspect if things are not quite going according to plan?
It's not easy. It's not easy. I think people like to use the word resilience nowadays. I suppose that's part of it. You have to really want it. You have to be driven and say, well, whatever happens, I'm going to do the best I can and try and make it happen. There are times when they're amazing results, and it's like, wow, this is brilliant. It's top of the world. There are times when you think there's going to be amazing results, and it doesn't come through. Those aren't so easy. I suppose in general, life has taught me that around the corner there's always opportunities, but there's also, I think, we live in an age where we can connect with anybody at any given time, and really I think it's about using your imagination and thinking, hold on, stop and going, hold on, I'm doing something right now, but actually I could. There's maybe another way of doing it, or have I thought about this? Have I thought about that? So it's it's ongoing. I couldn't really necessarily put it into one sort of set of words, but it really is just about carrying on and going for it and trying, and not being afraid to fail. I suppose as I've got older, I'm less afraid to fail, and more kind of life has taught me, and the experience of life has taught me that things come up, things happen, and especially in what we're doing, it really at any given moment we could suddenly get a deal for however many licenses. So it's kind of like that, and the more people that I'm interacting with, I'm in touch with people, hundreds and hundreds of people from all around the world, and at any point some of them can go back and say, actually, yeah, we want to buy this number, or I could meet someone tomorrow who goes, yeah, we need this. And it's so it's just carrying on. And
okay, brilliant, thank you. So we have a question in the chat from Michael, and he's asking, what are the top tips of what to do before the business is launched? So either of you.
I think you covered it earlier on, but if you could just summarize what your top tips would be. Well, I know you'd say market research, but just summarize your top tips, what to do before a business is launched. Josh, go on, we'll ask you first.
I think if you're talking about, you've already created the business plan, you're there and you're about to launch. It's about drumming up interest for your service or product. It's going out there, creating newsletters, connecting, networking, and just expanding your reach so that when you do launch, it's not, you're not launching into dead space. You're launching where there is a bit of a crowd for you to generate some excitement and some talk about your product. So it's not, that's what I think.
Jonathan, what would your top tips be?
Yeah, you have to know that what you're doing is going to add value. Whether or not, as many people as you think are going to buy it. That's the point. Is you have to know that it does have value, and you're going out and selling it with that in mind. You've got to really believe in what you're doing, and yes, but yeah, you've got to have, I suppose, all the necessary things in place. Ultimately setting up the right structure, financial structure, and having a clear sense of like what your costs are, and what you expect, what you're going to need in order for the business to continue. And as Josh said, again, it's about, especially in today's world, really networking and doing that sort of marketing and getting your message out there about what you're doing. And that's an ongoing thing. It's never ending. So.
And I would say one top tip of what to do before a business is launched is come to talk to us, because we have a wealth of knowledge and resources at our fingertips to help you with that. But one issue that a lot of people find difficult when running a business is finding new customers. What advice can you give about that? Jonathan, I'll start with you.
I'd love people to give me more advice on this one. But I think he's got to try every way possible, really. So in our case, we're looking for B2B, we're looking for schools. So that means really getting in touch with as many schools as possible and finding the decision makers, and building a relationship with them. And marketing is crucial to that. I don't think, if I'm being honest, we've nailed the marketing side as well as we could do. And that's something we need to work on. And I think it's always about being honest and looking at what is working, what isn't working. Speaking to people like Work Avenue, who I do speak to regularly, Joe Sadie, for example, who does help us with that a lot, and just really starting to think, okay, well, that's working, that's not working. How can we strengthen what is working, and how can we make something else work that isn't currently working? It really is an ongoing process, and everyone's got different business. Everyone will have different things they need to be doing in that regard, but never being static in the thinking I think is very, very important.
And being persistent, I presume, is also.
Persistent, and relationships. Even if, for example, at this point in time, somebody says, actually, we're not interested right now, or keeping a note of that, because they may want it one day, or they may want something else you're able to offer. So, for example, in this head teachers network, at least 30 of the people who I'd asked to join, to sort of buy Speak with Jack, who haven't, are now joining this network. So really, it's quite interesting to kind of say, well, actually they weren't for that, because the business isn't just one thing you're doing. The business is actually broader than that. And so, like, learning to expand on what you're doing and find a way to actually make them a customer is actually quite interesting as well. Absolutely. Even if it's not for the product you thought they were going to necessarily buy, which one day they might buy, because now they're now kind of linking with you in a different way.
Absolutely. I like to call it polite persistence. Polite persistence pays. And I mean, my business is running exercise classes in schools and nurseries, and that's how I've built it up, by constantly contacting schools and nurseries, even if they've said no, every now and again, get back to them, and you never know when they might come back on board. Anyway, Josh, would you like to tell us any advice you'd give on finding new customers, which is one of the hardest things people grapple with?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, when you do start a business, you think that everyone's going to come running to you, but it's the other way around. You have to go running to everyone else. So it's really about trying to be creative, not being afraid to pivot, and also being really realistic, critical about your business and your marketing, and really understanding the numbers of what, if you do push out an advertising campaign, what that advertising campaign shows you, what demographic are you hitting, why are you hitting them, did you tweak the advert slightly. You know, when we do run our advertising and our paid social media, we run, say, 3 adverts the same, but the beginning might be different to the middle might be different to the end, or our logo might be on it, or our logo might not be on it, or there might be words or they're not words. And then once you run them, really being analytical about that and understanding why A, B, or C worked and for what reason. And just, I also think it's just not being scared to pivot. If your business was originally direct to consumer and it's not working out, or it's too expensive to get those consumers, can you go to a commercial wholesaler? Can you sell it at bulk instead? So it's really being sort of truthful about your product and your business, and not just throwing money at it just to try and keep it going when we don't know why you're doing it in the first place.
Okay, so can I sort of pivot where we are now, because the last 2 questions have been retrospective. Looking forward, and also because the session prior to you guys was a session about setting goals. So looking forward, do you have a whiteboard and that says, okay, by the 1st of January 2023 or the 31st of December 2023, this is where we want to be? Do you work like that? I'm happy, either of you.
I'll take it. Right at this moment, it's not how we work, but it is definitely, we do have goals that we want to achieve. But yeah, you know, we've had several health setbacks and child setbacks, so it's sort of, we have to be very realistic and flexible with our timing of our goals. We do want to have a goal, but we don't want to create the strict deadline of, okay, we have to launch a new product by this date, we have to do this by this date, because if you don't reach those targets and those dates, then you feel like you've sort of failed and it sets you back. So we do have goals and we are working towards those goals. And it's definitely something, a goal of ours is to create timeline goals. So it's something we are working to, and I think it's definitely imperative for a business to grow and not stay stagnant.
Okay, brilliant. Jonathan, have you got a magic whiteboard?
No, I don't have a magic whiteboard, but I would say that we used to have timelines. You know, we in the product stage, by this point we want to have done this, by this point we want to do this. I think it's not so much a timeline thing, rather and even with numbers, we can't really say, well, we want this number by this amount. It doesn't really work that way. When you're dealing with sales, I suppose we're constantly just looking for new ways to find customers and for dealing with them. And that's really the goal right now. And so it's not so much a timeline thing. It's more just, okay, we have a clear goal in mind of what we're trying to achieve. And that's what we're going to try and achieve. And we know what we're trying to sell, and we're going to try and sell it. And we're looking at what we're doing already, even with the clients we already have. How can we make their experience of what we're doing better? So someone said to me, when you've got your first clients, make sure that they are really, really happy. And even though they haven't paid a huge amount for it, doesn't matter. The point is, and they're not the only focus for you. Make them an absolute focus, constantly be in touch with them. Is there anything we can do to help, et cetera, et cetera. And that obviously is also part of what we're doing. So really it's about, for us, it's just constantly thinking about how we can find new business. That's really what we're looking at. It's not so much about timelines.
So please, everyone, put questions in the chat for Josh and Jonathan. But I have a question for you, and there's a sort of negative and a positive side to it. So as a founder of your business, what do you find is the most difficult aspect of running your business? But then to counter that, what do you find is the most joyful? What brings you the most satisfaction? Josh, I'm going to ask you that first.
For us, sort of the hardest bit is obviously I guess it's both. It's the emotional side of seeing the struggle, but the emotional side of seeing people post our product on social media and show the benefits of our product and say, sending messages of thanks and how much they appreciate it.
So even something that's good for your business actually can make you feel a bit sad as well. That's
yeah, for sure. It definitely makes us sad, but it also encourages us to keep going. You know, that, you know, we are making a difference to people's lives. We are really helping people. I've always wanted, you know, since I was young, I've always wanted to start a business, but I knew that business had to be for a purpose. And I think this is one of the greatest purposes, you know, I could never have thought of. So it's a really double-edged sword for us.
And Jonathan, what would you say is the most difficult aspect of running your business?
Well, I'll actually start with the other one.
Okay.
I think the joyful side is actually really there's something. So, for example, one of our schools is in Thailand. So, and every morning I wake up and I look to see, you know, who's been using the platform, and I can see, you know, however many students have been using it. It's a very life-enhancing experience to have like created something from zero, and then to look on and see that, you know, a Japanese or Korean student in Thailand in an international school has used this platform and is actually benefiting from it. And we know that because the teachers are telling us that. It's a really life-enhancing feeling. And especially in the first few sort of weeks that was happening, it was like, wow, that's quite amazing. I suppose the flip side of that is that if there were more of that happening, and that's the goal we're trying to aim at, it'll be even more enhancing. It's frustrating when we're not seeing the number of sales we'd like, but we're constantly working on that. And I think every sort of startup business is going to struggle with that, you know, or most will struggle with that, I would say. And so that, I think, is the most difficult part. Is like we feel like we've got everything in place. We just haven't got the numbers that we thought maybe we'd have at this point, but that doesn't mean we won't. And I think that, you know, we couldn't have predicted that these schools would have come along either. So really, it's just about carrying on and saying, okay, we've got letting those successes really drive you, and you know, that's kind of it.
Do you have to travel to meet potential new clients overseas, or have you done it all remotely?
All remotely, yeah. And it's hard, you know, building trust online when you've never met somebody is not easy. But actually, I've discovered that I'm pretty good at it. It wasn't something that I necessarily thought I would be good at, but actually building a network online is, I suppose, in some ways the same as building a network when you meet people. Is, you know, it's building trust. And it's a bit harder online because they don't know you, but over time they get to know you and they realize, okay, and actually once you've built that trust online, it's even more powerful in a way than when you know, knowing someone face to face, because it's like we've got past that barrier and we were online and we didn't know each other. And now it's, and especially when you're going into schools, which is even harder, I suppose, to build that trust. But I suppose having worked in schools, I kind of know how schools think about things, and that's helped. So.
Josh, speaking about the trust that consumers have for you, do you find that they come along already feeling that towards you because they've maybe seen the story of your business and they know that you've been through the same?
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, it's as a new business, as a new company, it's hard for people to trust you. We actually, you know, to try and combat that, we recently set up a trust pilot page. And we've asked, after every order, the person gets an automatic email to leave a review for that. So, you know, thankfully, our social media has been great for us and for that, in creating that trust and having people post pictures and having us, and then we then sort of compliment them by putting them on our page and telling everybody about their story. So it's trust is the biggest thing for us, for sure.
And you mentioned that having to pivot, if you're finding B2C is too hard and expensive and time consuming, then you need to pivot to B2B. Have you done that? And to what extent, which kind of other businesses or charities have you contacted?
At the moment, we haven't pivoted yet because thankfully, we've been fairly successful with the direct consumer. We are always keeping our eyes and ears open to people that have contacted us, you know, to stock our products in their various shops that help cancer patients. But we started the business as sort of a cancer product, but what we've realized through market research and feedback is it's not just cancer diagnosis that people need our product. It's dialysis, it's septic fibrosis, it's sepsis, it's a magnitude of illnesses that we do want to branch into to help as many people as possible. And one aspect for sure is to create a child's line, and whether we can try and figure out how to do that as a charitable cause is something we really want to look at and pivot into.
Would you maybe partner with the charity for that? Is that something you've thought of?
It's something we have thought of. We've also thought about, already 10% of our profits go to charities that we have very close relationships with, High Cancer Care and Future Dreams House. So we already do have a charitable side to our business, and we are, looking at several avenues, whether people would like to donate towards creating that child's line, or going to investors saying, look, this is how much it's going to cost. Would you like to do it in memory of someone, or would you like to do it anonymously? Because there are people there that just want to help. And because, thankfully we are helping people are willing to speak to us.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Sarah, did you have a question?
No. I was just going to ask the same.
Anyone else at this stage, if you'd like to take yourselves off mute and ask a question, please feel free. Josh and Jonathan both have a very interesting story. Oh, thanks, Yana. No worries. They both have a very interesting story. So if there's anything anyone would like to ask, we've got a couple minutes left. Please feel free, take yourself off mute. Anything anyone would like to ask? If you'd rather put it in the chat, you can. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Michael, is that you? Are you putting your hand up? No, okay. You're just covering the camera. Well, if there are no further questions, it just remains for me to thank Josh Barron and Jonathan Schneider. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your experience with us. It was a pleasure working